All right, so this is based on work that Gary and I have been doing the past couple of weeks. All right, and so it's going to be show kind of practical results of what we were able to do with the rack. We upgraded to the rack antenna. All right, and so I'm gonna show the improvement in hotspot coverage that I got by switching antennas, and I measured it by using signal strength collected from a Browan Object Locator. Also kind of show the difference using Helium Explorer and Helium Mapper. So right at the end, we were able to get about 7.6 dB better signal to noise ratio based on the measurements we got. And what I'm going to do now is kind of just show how we went about this. So I'm going to show what we're trying to do, what hardware we use, and then show the results. All right, so our goal was trying to increase hotspot range without spending a lot of money and without causing problems with our homeowners associations. So, we couldn't put up a 100-foot antenna. We couldn't do that. All right, so what I'm showing here is before and after. On the left is what I was running before. That was a little $20 antenna that I got off DigiKey. And you can actually see the Helium standard antenna sitting next to it on the table. Right. On the right is what we ended up doing with the rack fiberglass antenna. We've mounted it outside on this aluminum contraption that Gary built. And then you can see what it looks like from the outside here. Right. So here's a closer look, really, at the antenna and the mount. So you can see it's sitting on a piece of aluminum. It's attached to this wooden thing, and so totally to construct this, right? We got the antenna. We've got this piece of aluminum. We've got this furniture leg. That's the wooden post. And then we've got some parts and some paint. So $71 to build this. And so for the aesthetics, this is Gary's house. You can see up on the right, there it is sitting right outside his window. It's kind of hard to see, which is kind of nice. It kind of blends in with the house. Then the other thing we were using is a Browan Object Locator. That's like a tabs, but it's not the Helium tabs. It's the stock tabs. That's what we were using. All right, so we were taking data with that to that antenna, and let's see what it looks like. So before we put the new antenna in, Creamy Holographic Cat, that's Gary's hotspot, it was witnessing to these two on the left, but it couldn't make it to Blurry Buttery Pig, which is 1.13 miles away. And Blurry Buttery Pig is in a valley. It's at about 301 meters. So it's lower. It's about 50 meters lower than Gary's hotspot, right? After we put the antenna up, we switch antennas, we're able to get to this hotspot. So we've got an extra witness on the challenges. That's good. Here, let's look at Mapper, right? So we've been mapping and all this. On the left is before we switched antennas. On the right is afterwards. Now, this area on the bottom, this is Gary's antenna here. So this red box is Gary's hotspot. Blurry Buttery Pig is actually kind of these bottom cells here. So a couple days after we switched antennas, we went driving down south and we picked up these hits here that we were not able to get before. We haven't done driving around further research. We want to do more driving around and see all around how we can get, but we just happened to do a trip this past Sunday and we got pings here. So that was kind of, that was very good news. Okay, so now I'm going to get into what the data that we got with the BOL, the Browan Object Locator. So what I've done, right, I've integrated it to Mapper, right, and this says how I did it, right? Followed the quick start instructions up on the Helium documentation and using this decoder function here from the repository. So it's integrated to Mapper. All right, so let's talk about measuring signal quality, right? So I keep this BOL at my house most of the time. This is at Gary's house. They're within range of each other. So I've been logging this BOL data for months now. So it's just been logging date, time, hotspot, some of the stuff I showed a couple months ago, right? What I was able to do after we switched antennas, we're looking before in the log and after in the log. So the blue, these are readings with the old antenna. You can see the RSSI is around 107, signal to noise about -14, -16. With the new antenna, RSSI is about 106, and the signal to noise is significantly better. If you average these right down here, the average before was about -106 RSSI, -14 dB signal to noise. With the new antenna, the average signal to noise is up to -7. So we got about, that's where the 7.6 improvement figure came from. Let me stop for a second. Questions, comments? There's a quiz at the end, so you better be paying attention. There'll be a quiz, and Travis is giving door prizes out for the right answers. Okay, here we go. Let's look a little bit more. Signal quality at these furthest points, right? Pulling out of my log again, I can see at these furthest points, we were about a little over 3 miles out. And this is the RSSI and the signal to noise we were getting. So that's, again, that's kind of pleasing. So summary, right? When we switched to the rack antenna, right, we got better hotspot range, right? We were able to get one additional hotspot. We were able to reach a sensor 3.5 miles away, whereas before we could really get about 2 miles away. And at a distance of 1.2 miles, that's the difference between my house and Gary's house, we saw an average improvement of 7.6 dB in signal to noise ratio. Here's just some references. Here's information on the antennas, explore the mapper. Here's a pointer to a white paper that talks some of the GPS calculations that I'm doing in the logging. This explains how to do that. And this also has references that explain how to log stuff to Google Sheet. That's how you can get us. And that's it, Travis.
Very cool, man. Great presentation. There were a couple of questions that came up in chat here. If you want to pull those up and kind of, if we want to address those, or if anyone who asked those questions, if you want to unmute and ask them here.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna stop sharing to do that so I can see. Does antenna have to be outside? I don't know.
Let me jump in a little bit on that, Mike. Having the antenna, obviously, glass is a hindrance, although it's a minor hindrance, it's a hindrance. Obviously, screen can diffuse the signal. So best case scenario is to have it outside, so you eliminate a lot of diffraction of signal, and also the having to penetrate the glass, diffraction there. So yes, it doesn't have to be outside, but it will be a considerable improvement if it is.
Honestly, also from my experience, I found that lots of modern apartments, they have UV coating on the window. It is even invisible. You cannot see it. It's not like a little shaded glass. No, not at all. Completely transparent, but yet it still has UV coating, which is blocking RFs significantly.
Very valid. On new construction, probably 60% of all new construction will have that coating to some degree or another, depending upon the quality of the home and the quality of the windows.
In most high-rise buildings that have UV, coating on the windows. So even if you have a very high altitude on the antenna, you lose a lot because of that.
Let's see. Next question. Do you plan to test any other hotspots? Great initial data, but my thoughts are multiple hotspot reads could make the data integrity better. So actually, yes. So that testing was done on with Gary's antenna upgrade. I've updated my antenna as well. You saw a picture of that. I haven't done any measurements yet. The initial readings is I'm not getting any improvement on mine, and I haven't had time to debug that. I'm not sure why. Is my cable not tied up right, or is my location a problem? I don't know, but I know there'll be at least one more hotspot that I'm going to test this antenna on, but I haven't done it yet. How it built, could you go into a little bit more detail on how you built the window stand, the windowsill stand where you mounted the antenna? Gary, would you like to talk about how you built that?
Well, part of it's probably embarrassing, but I'll go ahead and do it.
That's the part I want to hear. Please say that.
This has some entertainment value. So I purchased some aluminum, 0.80 aluminum, and it's in that list of that Mike gave on the I cut that piece with just a regular jigsaw. And I cut it in half. Mike's going back to the actual list. Here we go. Well, okay, if you can see that, it's 0.080 and it's 5/64. Cut it to a 6-inch wide. The reason why I cut it that width is for the strength. I would have liked to have made it narrower, but I was afraid in the wind that it might have too much flex. Okay, then I measured, okay, the depth of the actual window casing, as you can see right there, there's a 1/2-inch offset to go over the window casing. In Mike's case, his goes down, and then the.
But there was McDonald's,
right.
And then when there was McDonald's and Burger King,
yes,
started Wendy's.
Now. Actually, I have run heating and air conditioning businesses in the past. You would think that I could have access to a brake. I just got frustrated because I couldn't get anybody to break it up. So I did the braking with the hammer and using the tire of my car to roll over the aluminum and then making the bends and then actually finishing them off with the hammer. It would be obviously better to have them put into a actual brake and cleaner brakes, but I just was frustrated I couldn't get anybody to do it. So basically everything was done by hand, but I had about 2 hours in actually forming it, and then probably another 20 minutes in painting it.
Okay, let me stop the share.
I'm sorry, could I follow up on that? I was curious if you, I know that you did it all by hand. If there was an ideal way of going about doing this, like at scale, how do you think that would be?
Well, I mean, obviously, the pieces could be broke, when you're fabricating them in a sheet metal shop, you would have what they call a break, a 12-foot break where you could do 30 of them at a time, and it would take multiple breaks, but it could be accomplished. You could probably do 30 in 10 minutes easily, 5 to 10 minutes. So it would be done with the hydraulic, a small hydraulic brake, but where you do multiple pieces at a time.
But one thing to keep in mind, like Gary's in mind, windows are different. So how do you get the right bends to work on every window? That might be tricky to mass produce.
That's absolutely correct. You could probably come to one that averages, taking into consideration different, the depth of the windows, the depth that you're dealing with from the outside ledge or brick ledge or window casing up to the inside. You can come straight in some cases. Mike's bends going down, as you saw in that picture. So it would vary, but you could probably come with one that was pretty universal, but that would have to be determined by looking at window casings and applications in general in construction.
And also, Gary didn't mention, but he does have a patent pending on this design, and it's like a 25% royalty, just so I lay that out there.
Thanks, Mike, but it depends upon the size of the tire that you're using to roll over the aluminum.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I will say, like, it's not easy to bend that aluminum. Like, without tool, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And someone asked, share the PowerPoint. Yes, I'll put it in my GitHub repository tomorrow. I dropped the link into where it will be, so you can go save that, and so you can it'll be there tomorrow. Oh, the photo in the presentation showed the ANT 916 is parallel to the ground. Yes. So did I have that the wrong way? Right? It was this way. Should it have? You guys saying it should have been the other way, vertically? That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that ANT 916 little dipole.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go up and down.
Oh.
So that may have been part of the original problem, but you're off to a better setup now anyway.
And no, I'm not going to go remount that the other way, hook it up, and go do experiments just to compare them again. I'm not going to do that.
I have a question on your hexes on your drive test. It looked like, from what I could see here, that around your houses, you didn't gain any hexes. Or did you just not do the drive test again around your houses?
Correct. We haven't redriven around our houses yet.
Okay. Okay.
I'm hoping that it will fill in more around the house, between the house and those new spots that showed up way south. I mean, that'd be awesome if they all filled in down to that.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting too, looking at those pictures.
When I get that done in a future one, I'll come back and give an update. If only if things got better. If they didn't get better, I won't give an update on that.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I've got one of those antennas here sitting on my desk. I just need to find some time to do something with it.
Let's see. Anything else? What about Travis? Jacob is asking about recording of the Zoom. of this?
I think I responded there. Yes,
Okay.
I'll have this up on YouTube.
Okay, okay. All right, right. What mapping device am I using? From Jay. I'm using this. You mean to fill in the hex things on the mapper? I'm using this. Right. This is not the Helium tabs. This is a stock one that I have up on my console, and I have an integration going from this to the mapper. So I just drive around and I click this wherever I go. And you got to use, if you're going to use one of these, you got to use the decoder that I put in the slide. You can't use that stock default decoder in the console. The only difference is, and I'm not sure whoever put it there, he added altitude. You have to have an altitude value in the numbers that you send to the mapper. That's what's in that decoder that I referenced in the PowerPoint. Anything else, guys? Are you ready for the quiz? Rich, are you ready for the quiz?
Sure, I can start you with the question. Given that you can see an extra site now, what's your ROI on your investment for your test?
Okay. So, all right. Oh. All right. All right. Let me share one more time.
Just tell them 2 days
Loan me a
payback.
few bucks.
Yeah, and
Spare a few H&T, sir.
yeah, I went from getting Gary went from getting 1 HNT a day to now he's getting about 1,000 HNTs a day. So he's paid it off.
Okay, I'm going to mount those things all over my house, I guess.
Okay. Let's see. Let me show. I thought about putting an ROI thing in. I don't really have enough data, but I'm going to show you the data we have. So, right. So every day, let me make this bigger. Every day I go record rewards. How many rewards since the day before? So this is Creamy Holographic Cat. This is typically what it was earning. 5, 3, 7, 14, 6, 12. This is what it's been earning since then. It seems to be better, but there's so much fluctuation. I'm not sure. So it's looking better.
Yeah, no, that does look very much better.
So.
Question for you or anyone else who does the mapping, when you're driving around, how often do you transmit? Assuming 35, 40 miles an hour.
I've been doing 15 seconds, but I'll probably crank that up a little bit more to like 5 if I'm on the freeway. But 15 has been a really nice average for me, whether walking or driving.
I run pretty hot. I run at about 5 seconds, but that's something that you can also kind of scale based on your speed and kind of adapt depending upon how fast you're moving. Well, and there's some firmware that's up. I know what Jason has put some firmware up for a mapper that is available to download from his GitHub and flash onto one of the CubeCell GPS boards.
Yeah, that seems to work pretty good. I took and modified the runtime a little bit and changed the uplink to confirmed so that I can, when the acknowledge comes back down from the network, I could look on my little display there and make sure I'm getting something back from the network. So I'm not just driving around willy-nilly, not knowing whether I've got connection or not. So that's been kind of handy.
Are you using your modified libraries with the CubeCell there?
Well, I am, but it's a real small modification to even the stock library. Basically, it's a callback into the application, the device app, much like the downlink message has a callback into the device app that you can use, you can define. So it's pretty simple.
Right.
Doesn't need my runtime at all.
Hey, I can see where a Class A device is designed to wake up, transmit something, and go back to sleep, where not a lot's happening while it's asleep. But it seems like and I haven't been able to research this deeply enough, so my apologies if it's a newbie question, but it seems like if the device goes to sleep whatsoever, that it's going to have to rejoin the network when it comes back online, which kind of makes sense to me. Maybe there's a heartbeat aspect or something. If I switch to Class C, which I have on one of my devices, should I expect not to have to rejoin the network on every transmission?
There's a few questions there, which I can address. The Helium network only supports OTAA at this point, and we do not support Class C devices. So we only support Class A. I guess as far as Helium is concerned, that's the answer for now, and the probably the near future as far as Class C is concerned.
Regarding the rejoin, I've not really dug into it, but one of the firmwares that I've played with does store the sort of join information. And so I can turn the device on and it's immediately joined from that moment.
Yeah, I was reading the LoRa spec and it says it's preferred to not rejoin every time, and all you have to do is store the device ID that's assigned to you, and that will remain valid, I think, indefinitely. So it's preferred to do that and not waste transactions getting a device ID and then sending a message if you can.
Yeah, that would be very, very preferable. Right now, for my device to wake up and rejoin the network, of course, I'm at kind of a fringe point here, but it could easily take 5 to 8 seconds. And if I'm driving down the road at any speed.
Yeah, there's no technical reason why you need to rejoin, right? Once you get your device ID, I think you can just continue to use that in all cases. I don't know.
Look into that. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if there is an issue if you're roaming from one hotspot to another. I thought I did see something in there that you may have to send an extra command, but I'm not sure.
That side of it's all handled on Helium. That's maybe more specific to different networks. You don't have to do anything from hotspot to hotspot on Helium.
Right. So yeah, in that case, and it's funny, I was just coding this. You just get your device ID and you can just use that forever. So it should be like a one-time thing.
I'm just curious if it's not like a device joining network, but it probably just take longer time for device to get ready to transmit data, because joining network to me, it's like two-way communication. Something sent from device and then network responds back. So that would be a joining network, but it's not happening with our little trackers. It's a one-way communication. Just wake up, get ready, get GPS, and when you have data, send it out. No communication expected back from the network.
Well, initially you're going to have your join request, your acknowledgement, and then the network is going to push down channel commands, basically saying this is what the network is expecting you to operate as. But once you have that join, like a successful join, which is OTAA on Helium, then you can retain that and keep using that going forward, and should have consistent counts.
Oh, okay. And Travis, can we retain it indefinitely, or we need to refresh that data from time to time?
You don't have to refresh the data, but there are times when you would have to do another join. That's kind of what I believe Joey was referring to as far as storing down into non-volatile memory, and depending upon if you're completely powering down or if you're going into a deep sleep mode. Sorry.
That explains why your internet's so bad.
Yeah.
Cool, cool.
Those-
Yeah, thank you, Travis.
Those 56Ks, yeah. But another thing to consider, as far as like Rich, what you were saying with the wake times and the rejoining, you also have to consider the battery or the power consumption that goes into that. The same with whenever, if your GPS has to reacquire every time, that's coming out of a deep sleep, and rather than using, established lock positions, GPS eats power. They're power monsters. So
Yeah, no, I'm looking at keeping my GPS powered up the entire time so it doesn't have to get a new fix or anything. And I know that it's much happier if it stays online, and as far as getting the next fix. I was trying to avoid the network rejoin because I watch the packets go back and forth, and yeah, there is the join and request and the acknowledgement and the channel report, like you say, and then your up packets. So I was just trying to make that shorter and quicker.
Right, sure. And one thing that I know we have discussed in the Sensor Dev channel, I believe this is particular to the cube cells, but we were seeing a lot of ACKs for every packet, even if we weren't requesting them come through, and it was not consistent. Does anyone here know, Leroy or Joey, you know what I'm talking about on this issue?
Yeah, I was hitting that when I was mucking around with Jazz's runtime. I had commented out a section dealing with sleep, I think it was. Basically what I had done was I had zeroed out the wait time after the transmit. So we were never waiting for the receive windows. It's basically what was happening there.
Gotcha.
We were just stepping. I should say, was just stepping over the top of the receive windows. Once I quit mucking with his code, it worked. Surprise.
I gotcha. And let's see. Someone is what Zav? Are you? I'm going to call you out here. Are you working on the Raspberry Pi as a mapping device here?
Yeah, as some sort of device. I got the Pi Zero with, this is the RFM from Adafruit on here, and it has the screen. And I was able to get it onto the network because I had purchased this thinking, oh, cool, I could play with Helium with it. And then with the built-in demos, you can't connect to Helium. They have the Things network thing. But Travis was able to help me get this going to the Helium network with the OTAA, with the GitHub repo we found. So yeah, I got that going. And so now I've been sort of going through the LoRa spec and the different transactions. So I'm able to send data and I see the responses. And it's funny you were saying about the confirmation. I'm sending unconfirmed data up, but I'm getting these messages down. And I think it might not like what channel I'm sending it on or something, because it's like sort of that initial, I ignored whatever initial channel data it was given to me after the send. So maybe I'm not on a preferred channel. I'm not really sure, but I'm getting all these downlinks when there shouldn't be any scheduled.
And that repo, that's all Python, correct?
Right.
Yeah. And so you're setting this to operate on subband 2 for this. This is for the US only, folks, but
right.
okay.
Yeah, it's
what I've seen on that is you're getting a downlink for every uplink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was in my other mucking around with the cube cell runtime now. What I had seen is that downlink is the channel setting request from the network. It will send that each and every time until your device acknowledges it.
Okay.
There's a Mac command that should go back up to acknowledge that puppy. If you don't acknowledge it, it's going to send it every time.
And that's just, there is an ACK flag, and I think that's all you need to set. You don't even have to identify what you're acking.
It really should be under the covers. At least it is for a cube cell. It's a I forget the actual request that is coming down, but there's a response that needs to go back to say yes, the device acknowledges that channel setting request.
Okay, and is that part of the ADR?
No,
Okay,
no, that's totally separate.
separate. Okay, all right, I
Yeah.
gotta look at that.
I can look that up and I'll put the name of it in the chat. Could be your runtime's not handling it properly.
No, I know, because the runtime sort of wasn't set up for Helium specifically, and I've just been hacking through it, which has been a great way to learn what all the transactions are. But it's just one at a time.
Do you see that on TTN?
I haven't tried it with TTN.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have that.
All right. I will look up that. It's a message that the again, the network sends to the device with the MAC commands. There's a series of MAC commands that the network can send along with your payload.
Right. Okay.
And it's expecting a response back. Normally, you don't see it in the. Do you see it in the console? I don't know. Well, you wouldn't see. I don't think you see it in the console raw.
It shows up as
but there's a decoder, a message decoder.
Yeah, it says in the console log, it says the downlink was sent, right?
Mm-hmm, right, right. But you can take some of that data out of that downlink message and run it through a Mac command decoder, and it'll sort of help you decode the Mac command. But I'll look this stuff up. And
yeah, that's exactly
what chat.
Those Mac command definitions I couldn't find, so that's great.
One thing you did note a second ago, you were asking about ADR. ADR is not fully supported on Helium right now. It's something that is in the process of being developed and deployed. So that's something that is high on the priority list.
Right. Yeah, because I was wondering, I'm sending these messages, everything seems to be working. The hotspot's trying to give me some sort of information. I don't know what I'm going to do with that information, because it's the preferred channels, I think, right? And so can I safely ignore that information after I acknowledge it?
You might have to take a look and see what the runtime does with it.
Yeah.
Part of that, I think, is maybe a default data rate.
Yeah. What runtime are you talking about that I could reference?
The device runtime. In other words, Python runtime probably that executes on your device.
Well, yeah, I mean, I need a reference one, right? Because I'm making this runtime. This Python is, it doesn't have any of these transactions built in. But it sounds like what you guys were working on with those cell things has a good implementation. Maybe I could just look at that.
Okay, so you haven't been able to find a Python implementation of LoraWAN?
Not for this hardware. Yeah, it's a LoRa, but it's not for Helium. So I'm just taking this one that was for the Things network and making it work for Helium. So there's these sort of special things that were not implemented.
Okay, I would think that the Things network would require it as well, but I don't know that either. So
yeah, and maybe
no help.
Network, or just the GitHub I found didn't implement that part. So I just pasted in the chat the GitHub that I was using to do this, and just had to make a couple modifications to make it work with Helium.
That might have dropped in the chat as a direct message.
Yes, it did.
Happens to me all the time.
What were the changes or the modifications you had to make?
Let me take a look here. It was pretty minimal. There's a board config that just need to be changed for the Raspberry Pi. That one of the digital IOs, digital IO 3, is not connected, but it's not used for anything important apparently. So I just had to fix that and really put in the keys from the console. And I'm trying to think of what else I ended up changing, and just sort of piecing apart where I separated out the join is one script and then transmissions is a different script. So it's been pretty minor so far. Yeah, I have to manually, increment the frame every time I send something. Is there a way to reset that, or do you have to maintain your frame number forever?
Frame count can be reset.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing all these underlying details. It's interesting.
So yeah, you're definitely kind of getting into the nuts and bolts if you're, just making these independent calls, and kind of stringing all of this together. One thing that I know a lot of people kind of get into problems with initially is their timing. And this isn't so much, necessarily with the Raspberry or with that repo, but they put too much, like if they're using Arduino, they pile a lot of things into the loop, and it throws radio timing off. And so, you start missing windows, you start, not being able to get a join through. And so that's something that, when someone's trying to get a new device up, just, try to use a reference code base and stick to it, as strictly as possible, at least initially, and until you get a join and actually get data moving around.
Yeah, now that I have data going back and forth, I'm happy, so I can figure out the protocol, just based on the specs. So
now there's Lewis wrote LoraWAN sniffer that's up on our GitHub that you might want to check out. You can also use Wireshark, kind of bound to a device, and throw that through Wireshark filters. If you just want to see your LoRa data that's moving through.
Oh, that's cool.
And it actually natively supports the LoraWAN protocol now, and has fields where you just enter your keys, and as long as your keys are there, then it will do decoding for you, which is pretty handy.
What hardware do you need for that sniffer?
A radio. I mean, just something that can hook up to your PC, or if you're running it on, or whatever, I guess, device you're running it on. And so I guess as far as a radio, that could be as cheap as like a little, like what you're using, an RFM95, a device that you can get for what, $4 or $5.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, did you have a particular question that you wanted to ask for a giveaway? What do we want to give away? What do you people want?
Actually, I don't. I do not have a quiz question.
I would love a mapper. I'll put it up there.
A mapper? Okay. Yeah, I bet we can hook someone up with a mapper, with a I don't know. What do you say?
All right. I got a question.
Okay. No, you can't. You don't get my sweater.
How about
you gonna sign it too?
What for that solution that we demonstrated? What was the total cost? Total hardware cost?
76 something.
That man wins the prize.
We got a 71. Wait, hold on. Some people are entering in chat here. So.
Okay.
I don't have an exact timestamp, but the 76 and 71 came up about the same time. 17. That's a.
It was 71.66 was the.
Oh, it was 60 cents off.
You can't go over. You have to get us without going over.
You're such an engineer.
Yeah. Okay.
Less than or equal to.
I say JM is well. I'm seeing a 71 in the chat.
No, I didn't put it in the chat. No fair.
Oh, all the instructions were unclear. What a terrible quiz. So who was it? Was it who spoke first? Who shouted out?
I
70?
spoke, but apparently someone typed, so I don't know what happened first.
Well, I think what we're gonna have to do is just send both of you. Let's call it a tie.
Tragic.
And
That's so terrible.
yeah. Let's call it a tie, and I'll send out a board to both of you, or each of you.
The real winner is the network.
Exactly. Exactly.
So to Chris and to Chris V and JM, Travis, they're the winners.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Just hit me up with the contact details. Like DM. I think my DMs are on Discord, and I'll shoot those out this week.
Yeah, go. I'll put it in my GitHub. I'll put a PDF version of that PowerPoint in my GitHub, and there's a link. I put a link to the GitHub in the chat. It's at 6:29 Eastern. Check there tomorrow.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Or if you can't find it, get Danger Mike B on Discord and I'll get it to you.
So with that, I guess I will bid you adieu, and we can pick up next week. If no one else has anything here, we'll pick up next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And everyone have a great week, and enjoy Helium.
Thanks, Travis.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate the presentation. Man.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.